that tuned in previous. Didn't realize that my headset mic was overriding my studio mic. So yeah, that's fun to find that out after you've already started broadcasting. Usually it never does that, but for whatever reason, it decided to do it today. So I apologize for that. But wanted to highlight the latest kind of recent updates for NBA 2K23. One of my followers on YouTube, and we follow each other on Twitter, great guy, Doping Music. He hit me up, I believe it was yesterday. Let me know that NBA 2K 23 had some more playbook updates. So I wanted to highlight those, some other things as well. What's up, Hunter? Hope you're doing well, man. Um, haven't really recorded anything lately because there hasn't been anything out for 2K23. As many of you probably have figured out, once about late April, early May comes, there's really no content for 2K to put out. They don't really do playoff updates very much. Feeling what's up, man? They just don't have enough content. If you watch the ESPN little segment with Ronnie, he kind of shrugged and laughed of like, well, it's a small sample size against the same teams and all this crap. And it's like, dude, you already know you're going to put in all the stuff for 2K24. A lot of it's going to be similar to 2K23 as far as ratings go at the end of the year to start the year. Like, this is how it's always been. Unless something's new this year that we don't know about, this is how they normally do. Um, Big man Sam, 76ers is tough. I'm going to talk about some playoff stuff in this one. I want to make it a kind of a diverse video of flurry of content since I haven't had much. So hope everybody will stick around for that. But anyway, real quick, let me jump into a couple playbook things. So playbooks were updated. Shout out to the Czar, his team as well. Dre, I'm thinking you still work on playbook stuff for Czar, but shout out to Czar and his team for getting the playbooks updated. So we pretty much have every team updated. You can see in here when a team is updated, it has their first city initials. So Milwaukee there, Chicago there. There's only a handful of teams that don't have them. 5 teams total. Those teams being the Brooklyn Nets don't have any updates. The Denver Nuggets don't have updates. We have the Pistons don't have updates. The Spurs do not have updates. And it was, I believe, Portland doesn't have an update. And the Wizards don't have an update. Everyone else was updated. Most recently, we got the Suns. A lot of Phoenix Suns added plays specific to them now with having Kevin Durant on the team. The Raptors got a lot of updates as well. Pelicans, like an update or so ago, finally got 3-point plays added. I was happy to see that. But we got the Kings in here as well. Oklahoma City was another one. The Jazz got some added plays. But what's interesting is if you didn't know this and you already have a pretty fleshed out roster that really you don't want to have to start over just for the playbook updates because they don't transfer over per se automatically via different rosters. But what you could do is you can go down through the plays. Once you hit view play catalog with the triangle button on PS5, you can go through these. You can go through every single play type, and you'll find all the way down the list in order that what they added this year. So they added in, basically all the teams here. You'll see the team names. So you can add those plays manually, and you're not missing out on anything. They have all the all the teams that they added, and they have all the plays that they added as well. Now, with that, you still want to go through and make sure you fix up a lot of the play types. Unfortunately, even though they try to do their best with some of the play types, some are still off. It's just the nature of the beast. Like, you're not going to get everything 100% correct. I mean, us custom roster makers have a lot more time than a dev does to sit in one area and then assign something. Then you got to have the data to back it up, because it isn't just, hey, all right, I contract you, such and such, uh, person that works under the dev. Go ahead and get this work done for me. Go ahead and change all these play types. No, you have to go ahead and match the data to go with that play type, whether it's video, something that can basically show your work kind of thing, like back when we were in elementary school. Um, so that takes a lot of the time. I know personally when I had to do it back in the past, it was a lot. I had a newborn at the time as well, so that made it even tougher. Like I wasn't sleeping well. Just a lot of things were different at that point. But with that said, you have to give credit to Czar and his team for their hard work. They got 25 out of the 30 teams basically from scratch this year, and that's with having all the other duties that Czar comes with. So I give him a ton of credit for making a really great effort to put those playbooks together and get those in. Now, the other thing is, I've seen a couple people ask on Twitter throughout about coaches and why like Budenholzer is still the coach. Just different guys like that aren't the coach anymore. Budenholzer, um, who else? Dwayne Casey, Nick Nurse, Steven Silas. Like, because they don't really have replacements, there's nothing you can do in the roster. The only one that you really could have replaced was Steven Silas with Ime Udoka. But then you're not replicating this past season, which that's the last time 2K updated. They haven't really updated ratings or anything for the playoffs. So at the end of the day, it just makes better sense to have it just left alone and then start fresh with 2K24. Now, with that said, we will be getting my team NBA Draft 2023 draft prospects. We're getting Victor Wembanyama. We're getting Scoot Henderson. We're going to get a collage of other fringe guys. Brandon Miller, I'm sure, is going to be in there. The Thompson twins. Any of the top picks within the top 10. They do it every year. They pick 10, 11 guys, and they put them in my team exclusive to get an early look at what they're going to be in 2K. Pretty much what that means is either that 2K has sponsored or worked with a sponsor to go get that particular player, like they did last year with Paolo Banchero, to get them scanned in, or they're using an artist developer to pretty much get in there and what's the best way to put it? Hand draw them to the best of their ability until they can get a scan in. That's probably what they'll do. They've done it for the past couple years, so it's not a secret or anything like that. So expect those to come out soon. I just hope that somehow they end up better than this Anthony Edwards that they hand drew and they never replaced. But we'll see what happens. But anyway, regarding the draft stuff, so obviously Wembanyama went 1, which was cool to see to the Spurs. I thought it was the boring choice, but the best choice for him. It'll be interesting to see what happens with Charlotte, because if you're Charlotte, you can't pair Scoot Henderson and LaMelo Ball together if you watch LaMelo Ball at the end of last year. Like, the games that he played in, 30-some games, he chucked shots so bad. I mean, awful shots. And in that case, Scoot's not really somebody that I would look at to be a pass first guy. He's more that Russell Westbrook, John Wall. I'm afraid of that mid range pull up he already likes. And I'm like, you don't shoot threes well, you're not going to shoot that mid range pull up well either. Um, Brandon Miller is a red flag because of what was said about him at Alabama. Now, being that he did not know the entirety of the situation, you got to be smarter. But at the same time, there's conflicting reports right now. Woj is saying he's interviewing great, and then Jonathan Gavoni of Draft Express said he's interviewing terrible. I don't know what to believe because there's a lot of smoke screens to the draft. A lot of agents want to get players knocked down or knocked up in the draft to selected markets. Now, Brandon Miller makes better sense on Charlotte because they're likely going to lose Kelly Oubre. You could play Hayward and Miller together along with Ball, figure out a trade for Terry Rozier. Miller is more of a pass first guy if you watched him pre-Alabama than a lot of people know. They think, oh, he's KD light. He shoots a lot from the mid-range. He had to at Alabama. Alabama stunk. Like, as far as other creators and being able to be flashy with the ball on offense and stuff, he had to do that. Like, now defensively and rebounding and stuff like that, Alabama had that covered. But to be a go-to scorer, it had to be Brandon Miller. Now, with that said, Brandon Miller didn't impress me a lot being that go-to scorer either. But this is a weak draft. The Thompson twins, I'm not impressed by either because I don't like guard wings that can't really shoot threes or anything, especially with the way the league is now. We'll see. I think like Scoot Henderson, if he can, what's the best way to put it? If he can be as electric as he's been in the G League and develop any kind of 35 to 37% three-point percentage, it's over. He just has to be able to get that consistently. He works hard, so I think he can get there. I'm just not enamored with the fit next to LaMelo. Now, if Charlotte takes Brandon Miller and you're Portland, you've got to trade that pick and go get some veteran help. I am jumping all over a package from the Raptors of Anunoby and Pascal Siakam. I think that if those two guys come in a package and you're Portland and you send out the third pick, and even if you have to send out maybe Anthony Simons, but you get Siakam and Anunoby as win now pieces and maybe a future pick back, like those three things, I think that's worth it because you get a defender in Anunoby. You can go smaller at center. You can say it's not going to work, but if they can push the pace, they can at least be 5 or 6 in the West, somewhere in that range, and then that gets them a chance with Damian Lillard. You know, you are taking a chance if you're Portland and you have Shaedon Sharpe come off the bench as the super sub and start Thibault as the defender next to Dame. So you always have a defender there to kind of guard to start the games. Quick sub for Sharpe. And then, you know, you kind of build around that. You could always have you have Jeremy Grant as well. So, you know, I just think that, you know, that would make better sense. Charlotte, I just don't know, Hunter, to answer your question. Knowing Mick Kupchak, I hate him as a GM. I always have. I just don't like what he's super safe with stuff, and his teams never go anywhere. Like, you could say what you want for the Pau Gasol trade. I believe that was him. But at the end of the day, that was Dr. Bus that signed off on that. So at the end of the day, you know, with Kupchak's track record, I don't like him in that role. I don't trust him. Let's put it that way. In a trade, he would get fleeced for that second pick. Um, I'd rather just draft the player and develop him. I mean, what do you have? LaMelo and maybe Miles Bridges coming back, and Miles Bridges is not going to be in 100% shape, and I don't know that he's able to replicate what he did prior to getting suspended. And he's going to have a lot of flack from the media and fans. Like, it's going to be rough for Charlotte this year. So, like, it's just tough to say what's going to happen. You still got Steve Clifford as a coach. I wasn't thrilled with Clifford as a coach coming in to Charlotte because I felt like for what that team needed, they really could have used a guy like Kenny Atkinson, but Atkinson saw the writing on the wall once the assistants weren't able to reach salary amounts and stuff like that. Like, from there, it's just tough to really put a finger on where Charlotte can go. They're not going to do a lot in free agency. So what are you going to get out of trades? Terry Rozier and trading him, maybe Hayward, sign and trade Oubre. Like that's not a lot coming back. So, it's just tough to see where things go. Detroit gets interesting at 5 because I think the Rockets take. I'm going to guess they take Amen Thompson, and then you got 5. You got Cam Whitmore as an option. Jarace Walker as an option. I mean, you have options. Nothing that lights the world on fire, though. And if you're looking at it, you have front court players in Stewart, Bagley, Duran, and Wiseman. So you need really a small forward to come in and help, for the future. And whoever's coming in as a rookie probably is not going to start. Because I'm going to guess that all the positions are filled unless they decide to trade Bogdanovich and get off of his extension. But, we'll see what happens. The Spurs, to me, they bring back Trey Jones. I see a lot of mock lineups have Malachi Branham as the point guard, as a starter. That is going to be awful because Branham's not a true point guard. Number 2, he was shaky last year shooting the ball. If you're going to put somebody in there, it's got to be Trey Jones and his passing ability to be able to get Wembanyama the ball. You still got Keldon Johnson there, Vassell, and Collins to help out as a backup. Jeremy Sohan as well. So, we'll see what happens. The interesting thing this year, though, with the offseason is going to be the trade market because there's going to be a lot of teams that owe players a lot of money. And, at the end of the day, you can't pay them all. Like, I think DeAndre Ayton's out of there in Phoenix. I think Chris Paul eventually gets traded. You're going to see other guys kind of move around as well. Like you could see Buddy Hield because he's a veteran shooter get moved. For sure with Dallas, they've got a lot of decisions to make. Dallas is one at that 10th pick. If they use it, I'd like to see Taylor Hendricks picked. But if they trade it, that'll be better for them. What can the Chicago Bulls do to trade to get the 3rd pick? Oof. I mean, looking at the Bulls, what do they have? DeRozan, but Charlotte's not going to, Portland's not going to want DeRozan. Vucevic, that's not really going to help them. I'd rather go after DeAndre Ayton. There's not a lot. They've got to figure out their point guard spot because next season, pretty much looking at this official roster, you bump down DeRozan, You bump down Levine. And, like, Ball is out. Beverly's a free agent. The Sun moved up and down. Dalen Terry wasn't ready. Kobe White is a free agent. Patrick Williams up and down. Like, what is there really overall for Chicago? What is appealing to trade if you're looking at it from another team? You're not taking on DeRozan and Kobe White, and, like, you're just not for the third pick. That ain't happening. Like, I don't even think you can get rid of Levine for the third pick. It's not reality. Chicago's stuck. They're one of those teams that's stuck. Another one that's stuck, my 76ers, because they're stuck at the mercy of Daryl Morey and James Harden. Because now Daryl Morey does whatever James Harden wants. And from rumors, James Harden got Doc fired, which to me, Doc deserved to be fired. He lost, his voice was lost. I live in Atlanta, so I don't live in Philly anymore. Went to a couple Hawks games the past couple years with Doc as coach. He doesn't make adjustments during games. The bench tunes him out. You could see it in timeouts. They're not making eye contact. And I get seats close enough. I'm fortunate enough to get seats close enough that I can look straight on at Doc's voice. He's going on and on and on about things. And, Harden kind of looks over to the side, all that stuff. Embiid's looking down and kind of not really there. Like, they just tuned him out. So, with that said, what I would do if I was the 76ers, and they're not going to do it because it's Daryl Morey, unless Harden just decides that, hey, I'm leaving. You sign and trade James Harden. You can go get from Houston, if that's really where he wants to go, you can work with him on his destination. You could get a Kevin Porter Jr. back. You can get Kenyon Martin Jr., and then you can get a pick. And to me, getting those, basically a high first-round pick, potentially, a kind of fill-the-gap point guard, and then a combo forward, like, that's probably all you're going to get out of Houston, but it's better than him walking for zero. Like, that's the alternative, because he's not going to go, oh, yeah, all right, well, we'll trade you to Orlando. Like, that's not going to happen. Like, Daryl Morey's not going to do that to James Harden, and James Harden would never agree to that. So, at the end of the day, we're looking at Philly or Houston. For my sake, I hope he goes back to Houston, because I don't want James Harden in Philly. He doesn't win in the playoffs. He'd rather party, and he can't get his body right. Anybody that's partied, that's over the age of 30, knows partying may not hit you that night. It may not hit you the next day, but you damn sure will feel it by the second day. Like, there ain't no question. Like, and for him, having a run in NBA speed up and down, all that stuff, you can't go to Vegas and party and do all this stuff and then just expect to be on the floor and just come in clutch, like, game after game, and your body's not going to break down. No. And the NBA got hip to him drawing fouls left and right and how he was doing it, and they shut that down. Same with Trae Young. And if you noticed, both have struggled since the NBA instituted that. And now James Harden barely gets to the rim, and he struggles to shoot threes because his legs are tired. So at the end of the day, you start doing what? You turn the ball over because you're overthinking things. You're frustrated. Then you really do get frustrated, and you do stupid play after stupid play. Same with Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid does not take things serious. Joel Embiid could be in the gym every day, all day, over the summer, but during the season, he's not in the gym devoted, saying, hey, I'm getting double-teamed, I better not pull up here. He shoots too many threes and too many pull-up mid-range shots. He settles. You're not banging on the block using your ability to be Hakeem-like on the block if he really devoted himself. But he doesn't, so he'll never reach Hakeem levels. But he could be that if he really, really wanted to. He could get close. I don't think anybody's ever going to be better than Hakeem, but he could be the closest thing. But it just comes down to desire. Do you want to win for the team and get a championship, or do you want to win your way? Let's go over to Jokic. He wins the team way. He spreads the ball around. He gets in scoring inside when he needs to. He'll even shoot a three if he needs to. He's not the greatest defender, but he does try a little bit. At the end of the day, he also passes to wide open teammates when he's in trouble and knows when to make the right reads. And that's where Embiid lacks. And so at the end of the day, Embiid is always going to be falling short because if you don't want it hard enough, you're not going to win. But, other than that, that pretty much kind of covers, we can go into like Boston. Their inexperienced head coach is catching up to them. That and they take their foot off the pedal too much. And you could tell it's back and forth, Tatum, Brown, Brogdon a little bit. Like, they just don't have the magic and will to fight like Miami does. Miami suffered injuries early in the season. Now they have Tyler Hero hurt, but early in the season, injuries left and right. They should have been a 4th or 5th seed. At the end of the day, Jimmy Butler's going to put you on his back. Adebayo's gonna do what he does. Lowry's a dog. Like, he turned that whole narrative about himself early on with the Raptors around. Kevin Love is resurged. Cody Zeller is looking good as well. Gabe Vincent stepped up. Max Strus has stepped up. Guys like that have really stepped up, and that's because Spo knows how to navigate, number one, the playoffs because they were in the finals in 2020. Number two, because Spo has all that video game coordination experience, can put together tape on Boston and show you where the weaknesses are, where they go stagnant. And there's no adjustments by Missoula. Like, you're going to sit there and play Peyton Pritchard after he got torched? Like, and you're still going to put him out there? Come on, man. Like, you're in the playoffs. You were in the second row. You weren't even a front row assistant, and they gave you faith. It's a great feel-good story, but it's not enough experience to beat a Miami team unless you make adjustments. They can. If they turn it on and make those adjustments where Tatum is just red hot and then Brown's feeding off of him or vice versa, they're going to mop the floor with Miami. But they haven't shown that consistency to do so yet. So right now I've got Miami winning it against, and I think Denver, I think they split the LA games. I think LA gets the next one, and then they win the next following one in LA, and then they win in Denver. So, basically 6-game series. So, we'll see what happens. Potentially what happens. It could be going back to LA for the 6th game. It could be 5 games, and they win in Denver. I mean, to me, the adjustments that the Lakers have to make is, are they going to stop making the same mistakes at the end of games between AD and LeBron? LeBron's settling too much for threes because of the foot. AD settles because he gets in his own head. D'Angelo Russell's just been outplayed, and that's what it is. Like, if they can get something out of Russell to pair with Hachimura and Reeves, Denver's in trouble. But until then, Denver's doing what they always do. They take on a strong opponent, and they find ways to get the shots they want, the passes they want, and the scores at the end of the day that they want. So, it is what it is. No real other content. I mean, there was some shoes put in as well. I don't know what models. I'm not the best with shoes, so if you guys know any of the models that got put in, from what Dopey Music told me, there was a pair of Nikes, a pair of Jordans, and like 3 pairs of Adidas. I was trying to look, but I'm not the best with shoes, knowing what was in, what wasn't. Um, but that was pretty much the other update for the um, recent roster update. So outside of that, nothing official. What I did want to do is show off some content that I have that's personal content. It's not out now. Um, it's just kind of getting things ready. So what I did was I have my current roster. Um, with updates, badge updates, ratings updates, stuff like that. What I did was John Marcus, who's the real 2K insider, he did a lot of badge edits, rating edits, stuff like that. I worked off of his stuff and kind of formulated my own a little bit. Full credit goes to him. I don't want anybody to think I took his content because it's all him. Um, he works hard. If you haven't already, hit up his Patreon. He has all of his stuff under a spreadsheet where you can input it into your own roster and go from there. He also has his own roster that you can download, so make sure you do that. Support him, please. But it saved me a lot of time doing it that way because then I didn't have to input the badge edits and stuff like that. Since I'm less familiar with badges than I am with the ratings and tendencies. And what I did was I started my own roster for 2K24 just based on a quick play roster. I know a lot of people are going to do a My NBA Era, and then that way you could just play it through with the new calendars and stuff like that, blah, blah, blah. I wanted to do just a quick play roster, so that way when the draft comes, I can just place guys on the roster and go. As the offseason goes, I can just play with them and go. I didn't want to run a franchise or anything like that. But what I did was, for the current teams, I updated ratings, badges, tendencies, some accessories for some players, and then I did the ages and years pro of players as well. So everybody's advanced a year that played this year, everybody's age that should advance as well has gone up. So all that's taken care of. I also went in and updated cap faces for all the players that had generic renders, like AJ Green here. You could see, and I got them from various places off of 2K shares. So like all kinds of different cap makers, Dirty 8, Easy, what was it? Easy Ed, I think, and some others as well. Sorry if I didn't shout you out. I'm not trying to purposely miss anybody's creations, but I basically just added those in. I touched up ratings. Like, there was no reason why Brandon Boston should have been a 74 on the roster, so I went ahead and tweaked those ratings to get him down. Some position edits to get ready for next season, like DeRozan back to small forward, stuff like that. Let's see. What else? Already mentioned position edits. Am I concerned with Milwaukee's core? Middleton scares me a little bit because of the knee. I could see Middleton maybe moving on. Portis could move on as well. With new ownership partnered with Jim Haslam, I could see some changes. Not Giannis per se, but things surrounding him. The other thing I did is I took off the two-way players that weren't on 2-year 2-year two-way contracts. The ones that were on the 1 year I took off the roster unless there's still currently teams in the playoffs. I didn't take them off yet. So you'll see that. I went ahead and removed the extra players off of Portland as well, since those hardships were not valid. Andre Iguodala is no longer going to be in the NBA, so I removed him. Matthew Dellavedova signed with Melbourne for a 3-year deal, so he won't be in the NBA next year. Once Haslam is done with the Heat, I'll remove him as well. But also, what I did was I updated some of the lineups as well. So those are just current as of right now as we go into the season. um, Hunter, I'm good with LeBron staying. I mean, that's a once in a lifetime achievement to stay till your son plays. I don't have an issue with that. It depends on what team he goes to, how much they're gonna have to maneuver their roster around to get once they draft Bronny to get LeBron, like because he's gonna sign wherever Bronny is, so it's a given. Um, but yeah, we'll see. I did do something here just temporarily. Um, the coaching staffs. So I did let go of the coaches that were removed. So far. Reztez, Warriors, I think, bring back the core, but I think Jordan Poole is moved. Maybe Kaminga's moved. They try to get some pieces back that are win now. I think DiVincenzo is a free agent. They like Ty Jerome as a backup point guard. Uh, Funny thing is, they had to pick between Jerome and Anthony Lamb, and because Wiggins was out, they went with Lamb. I think they would have preferred to go with Jerome because he's a heady combo guard that can pass and shoot it some. But they had to go with Lamb because they were short at the time of wings. What I did do with the coaching staffs temporarily, I left the former staffs and just promoted the assistants to head coach, as you can see here. I did remove some of the players that, or some of the coaches that moved on to other jobs and added in different ones like Damari Carroll here from Milwaukee, stuff like that. You'll see like Antonio Lang took a job elsewhere. Missoula's staff you can see is thinner because they lost Stoudemire. I moved around, like Dan Craig is the lead assistant, so I moved him. Just stuff like that, just fixing up rosters. Like Quinn Snyder's the coach, Antonio Lang's going to be a lead assistant. Brian Bailey's going to go to the staff as well, along with Alex Jensen, and Mike Bray is now coming on. So I added all of them. Just kind of, like I said, updating the team. Scott Morrison added to the Jazz. You got, let's see, what else? Sean Sweeney is actually the lead assistant for Dallas. Added Jay Hernandez to the Brooklyn Nets. Head coach wise, I went ahead and put Kevin Ollie in right now because I think he's the leading candidate for that job. So I put him in. Put Becky Hammon in for Toronto just to have a fill in. We'll see. Big Man Sam, yeah, I'm not a big Doc Rivers fan at all. He coasted on that one championship. He wasn't great with the Magic. He wasn't great before the Big Three got there. He didn't know how to manage the Big Three except for that one championship. Outside of that, it was panic in LA. Like, he can blame it on the players all he wants to, but the failure points back to him for not making adjustments multiple years. We'll see. I put Udoka in as the Rockets coach. Obviously, he doesn't have an official face because that's hidden without being able to access that. I think PC can access it, though. Suns, Kevin Young has a very good chance at this job. So I want to go ahead and put him in for right now. No other real changes, but I will show you. I did add James Posey as the perimeter D coach there. I did changed some coaches up here. So here's the free agent coaches that came off the teams there. But I did add in Frank Vogel into the free agent pool in case he gets signed. Um, and then you got the assistants that were on teams. I added James Borrego as well because I think he signed somewhere this year. And then, just go from there. So you got like Greg St. Jean from Dallas will move on. Brian Keefe. Like you have different guys that are real coaches that are down um, uh, in the free agent thing. I actually forgot to add one back. I'll have to do that later to the roster. But also, it won't let me back up. Okay. So I talked about earlier about adding in plays. I added in all the plays that were in the new playbook updates to this roster. So you get all of the playbook stuff that was added to the recent roster update in this update as well. So you don't have to readjust. Now, some new things that are added to this. Got the free agent pool. Now, I did a mixture of caps. Feelum 2K does a phenomenal job with his draft class. I also like Jack Moves or Jack Move 16's draft class as well. So I did a mixture of guys and then tweaked them on my own. But all the big guys are here as well. I left some free agents that signed this past year, but you'll see what I did with some of the others as well. But again, these aren't my caps. I just tweaked some of the tendencies and ratings. But the faces and stuff are either Jack Moves or Feelums. Just depends on which one I put in there. But I did, like I said, update guys like Matt Ryan with a cap face and stuff like that. Now, I added guys from on my own. Johnny Broom is one. I also added Olivier Maxine Prosper. Who else? Ryan Kalkbrenner. Azulos Tabelis. Landers Noli. Chumani Kamara. So there's a various guys that I added in to get things to fix. Now, stuff like this, McCallum Jr., you have to space it because for whatever reason it gives a profanity thing whenever you put it together, but that's just how it is right now. Jason Gortman added, just things like that. Damani Hodge, Serge Jabari Rice, guys you don't see in the necessarily stock draft classes of those guys. I went ahead and created some of them and then put them into the roster. So they're there. I went ahead and put some of the overseas guys. Vezenkov, that's going to go to the Kings. The Knicks have Jokibitis. He's rumored to possibly come over. Petrusev could come over to Philly. Madar, Presida, guys like that that were recently drafted. I went ahead and put here. I'll remove them if they don't sign. I just want to get them in, go from there. So, Phelan's asking, does Chicago have mid-range plays? Go back to, they have one mid-range play. So, they updated, I guess, a little bit of stuff throughout. But anyway, so I did that. But then for the G League teams, some of their more promising players, and I'll fill these out after the draft because then we'll know where like some of the undrafted guys are going for summer league, things like that. I can kind of put them on these G League teams for the time being. But I kept some of the more known guys that did well for their team last year that could return and see what happens with them. And some of the two-way guys I went ahead and dropped to the G League teams just to get them out of the free agent pool so it wasn't overclogged, but then at the same time on the correct teams. So you'll see them here. There's a mixture of guys that I still have to add, like that's a fake player. Some of these guys are fake players, and so on. But for the most part, got a lot of the teams corrected there. Now, another thing I did is I went ahead and updated the all-time teams. So we got Charles Barkley, 76ers, we got Barkley, we got Tony, we got Costello, we got Walker, all added into the roster. Brand new. For the Bulls, I added Dang, Chet Walker, and Norm Van Leer. For the Cavaliers, I added Tristan Thompson over Anderson Varejao. For the Celtics, I added in Sam Jones and Dennis Johnson. For the Clippers, got Lou Williams in there, Bob Kaufman, and then Randy Smith. Memphis, I got Marc Gasol added in. I got OJ Mayo, and I got Lorenzen Wright. Atlanta Hawks, Mookie Blaylock, John Drew, Bill Bridges, Dan Roundfield, Zomo Beatty, Lenny Wilkins. All are added. Miami Heat, Grant Long and Mario Chalmers were added. Charlotte Hornets, Marvin Williams, Emeka Okafor, Anthony Mason, and LaMelo Ball added. And then Utah Jazz, I added Mehmet Okur. Sacramento Kings, Bobby Wainzer, Sam Lacey added as well, Chris Webber, Jack Twyman. The Knicks, Harry Gallatin, Bill Bradley, Mark Jackson. Made sure to add those guys. Looking at the Lakers, Pau Gasol replaces Anthony Davis. Orlando Magic, Bo Outlaw replaces Steve Francis. Dallas Mavericks, Roy Tarpley, Josh Howard, Sam Perkins, all added into the roster. Go over to the Nets, Bill Melchioni, Michael Ray Richardson, Kerry Kittles, Billy Paltz, John Williamson, all added into the game. The Nuggets, Ralph Simpson. Also have, you know what? I think, no, just Ralph Simpson. Okay. Just trying to figure out. I thought I added one more, I guess. Bobby Jones. That was the other one. I knew there was one more. Indiana Pacers. We got Roger Brown, Reggie Miller. We've got Dale Davis, Billy Knight as well. And then Detlef Schrempf down at the bottom. New Orleans Pelicans, Ryan Anderson, Tariq Evans, P.J. Brown, Jamal McGlure, all added into the roster. Detroit Pistons, we've got Vinnie Johnson, Tayshaun Prince, Rasheed Wallace, George Yardley, all added into the roster. Toronto, Amir Johnson and Jose Calderon added to the roster. The Houston Rockets, Robert Reed added to the roster. Mike Mitchell and then Alvin Robertson added to the all-time Spurs. Phoenix Suns, you know where I'm going to go with it. Connie Hawkins and Charles Barkley added. Oklahoma City Thunder, you got Serge Ibaka added. Minnesota Timberwolves, Pooh Richardson, Sam Mitchell, Tony Campbell, and then Al Jefferson, all added to the roster as well. Portland Trailblazers, Rasheed Wallace, Brandon Roy are both added to the roster. Golden State Warriors, Neil Johnston, Jeff Mullins, and Latrell Sprewell added to the roster. Washington Wizards got Greg Ballard, Chris Webber, Gus Johnson, and Will Bellamy, all added to the roster. So, as you can see, the all-time teams have a lot of added players. Just going over the classic teams, a mixture of stuff here. Some faces from various rosters. MJ Wizard, some of his ratings and stuff like that. A lot of my own mixture of stuff. So just a collage of stuff, but accurate rosters as of end of the season / playoffs. So you got everybody to play with, as long as you are careful, looking at the rosters and adjusting how you want. You'll have fun. Unless you want to just use these, you can run with these and have just as much fun. But I know a lot of people are kind of iffy about whether they want certain guys on all-time teams or not. So I'll leave that up to you, whatever you choose. But every team has complete rosters with accurate players for every team. And so really, really worked hard on this. So hopefully everybody enjoys this roster. Once I'm able to release it, I want to do some more draft prospects and get them added in, get the ages for the draft prospects touched up, because as you know, coming from the draft class into 2K, the ages can adjust, and so I don't want that to happen at all. So I'll do that over the next day or two once I can get 5 or 6 more NBA players added in, and then I'll officially release it. But I'll announce on Twitter once I am releasing it officially and when it goes live. But as always, thanks everybody for watching. I just wanted to highlight that stuff, just give a brief anticipation of what to expect coming up in another day or two. Like I said, it's not going to take me a week. It only should take me a day or so to get the draft class people touched up, get them the right looks and things like that. That way I can get some more players into the draft room and then go from there. But hope everybody enjoys your weekend. Thanks for watching this video. Thanks as always for tuning in, and I will talk to you next time.